Well, the idea of the show came up. My daughter Nancy and I were talking about it and wanting to be able to do something like that with Steve's work. And we didn't really know how many pieces we had because we didn't have everything out and checked on. So we were mulling around with this idea when we went to the South Shore Arts Council meeting, and it was discussed, and people in the Arts Council thought it was a good idea, and we were very pleased because we could all work together and do something with this. So Henry and Doreen graciously offered their beautiful gallery for us to host the show, and for them to host the show, and we went from there. And everybody in the Arts Council had something to do, and we all just worked at it, and so here we are. Steve had taken some art classes in Australia, and he'd always been doing some drawing over the years. But when we were in Regina, the job there was sort of a dead-end job, and we were finding we were doing a lot of traveling around to different parts of the world with his science career, and got to the point where our children were at the age where they needed a place to stay for longer periods of time. So we came back to the house in Tryon, which is my family home. It was empty at the time and needed repair. And Steve had the idea that he would like to take this opportunity, starting with his first love, which was art. So we came back to Tryon with our two children, Nancy and James, and Steve did some renovations to the house and also created a gallery space and a print shop in what was the back part of our house, and part of it had been a wood house. And I was nursing at the time, and he got that underway, and so he did that for about 6 or 7 years. Meanwhile, in 1983, he started to get people coming from Australia to visit us in Tryon and wanting him to get back into science, because the machine that he had designed, the sensitive high-resolution ion microprobe, which was called a shrimp, he called it that, and it was working quite well after having been tested out in Australia. And it actually dated the oldest grains of rock that were found in the world to that time in Mount Nerrier in the outback of Australia. So they were dated at 4.2 billion years old. So that put the shrimp machine that he had designed on the map and caused him to want to get back into science again, but he did it gradually, keeping on with the art gallery in Tryon. And then he found that it was very difficult to do the instrument design work that he was hired to do and also do the artwork. They seem to both require his concentration. Steve always loved ships and harbors and anything to do with the water. And I think it maybe came about, he was brought up in Winnipeg. He was born in Victoria, BC, but only was there for a year. And then brought up in Winnipeg, which is landlocked. And he was there until he was 7 and started drawing on the kitchen table there. Anyway, he always liked to draw ships. And he was very meticulous about the form and the lines. And in this picture, he didn't do very many oils, but this is an oil that I think he depicted it off Victoria Paul's Bluff. And you can see from this shape of the ship and the dory that the lines are very carefully done, and that's the same in all his boat pictures. And Steve went into the archives in Charlottetown, and he did a lot of research on the ships that were built on the Tryon River, where we live, and on the Victoria area, Westmoreland River. And he would get the measurements and the tonnage and who built them. And this particular one is the Break of Day, the schooner. The Break of Day is a very nice name for it, and there were lots of lovely names for the ships that he really liked. But this one was built by William Warren Lord on Tryon River. Well, this one is called Ship Getting Underway, and in it there's a tugboat, which I really like, pulling the ship out to get it into the strait. And that's a ship in full sail. And there's one of the seamen up at the very top. When he did he does the first drawing on the zinc plate, it's from his sketch, reversed line drawing. But if he wants to get any of the darker tones, like for the tugboat or the water, he goes to aquatint. And that's a process where you use resin in an aquatint box, and certain areas are blocked out and other areas have the resin on them, and it's melted in to give some texture to the plate, and then the plate is inked with that rough surface. always enjoyed life drawing. There was a life drawing group in Charlottetown, and I believe it started at the Great George Street Gallery. And this is a fellow who used to be a model. His name is Skipper John, and he was quite a character, and Steve used to like to draw him, and there were quite a few different models for life drawing. Steve always loved to come down to Victoria and sit on the wharf and sketch the boats. And this was his first Victoria picture that he did. And he always liked the way, with etching, sometimes things came out after you had printed it a bit different than you'd expected. And in this one, it had a misty quality that he hadn't really planned on. So that was Victoria 1. And then this was just the second one he did of Victoria. And you can see it doesn't have that misty quality, more like a bright sunny day. And then there's the new wharf at Victoria with the lobster traps. He did a lot of sketches of boats in Victoria, some with the people working on them, and some just the different lines. Lots of opportunities in Victoria to do good boat pictures, and he always liked to be in Victoria. Some of the work was loaned to us by friends, and some we had at home were already framed, and some Henry and Doreen framed up for us. So in the end, it was quite a lot of work. His most popular ones were the Burning Ship and the Marco Polo, the Yankee Gale, and the loss of the Seven Brothers. The Seven Brothers was a ship that was launched out of the Westmoreland River, Victoria Crapo area here, and the Woods brothers owned it, and it became locked in the ice, and then the ice moved out into the strait with the boat, and the Woods brothers went to try and save it. Steve started to draw the Seven Brothers with different ideas of what might have happened. One of his first ideas was that they would be carrying one of the ill Woods brothers on their shoulders. And then he read an article, I'm not sure if it was in the Crapo history or the Victoria history, where they actually put one of the sick men in the dory. So he scrapped this plate and did one with the sick man in the dory. And then he did another plate just zeroing in on the fact that the boat is pretty well lost and stuck in the ice, locked in the ice. Each of the different stages of the plate. First of all, he has to do the drawing, and then he has to reverse the drawing and draw it into the wax on the zinc plate. You can see where Steve tried to get the figures to really be action figures and be working hard at hauling the dory in. And he went through a lot of sketches just to get the movement right. And I think in the end result, it does look like they really are working hard in the storm to bring one of the brothers into shore. And you get the feeling of the terrible storm and the bad conditions. Well, it's been wonderful to have all of these pieces of Steve's work here in the gallery, and I have been down here many days, and it's going to be actually sad to have them taken down. But we've never had the opportunity to have so many of his works together at one time, and I'm very grateful to Henry Dunsmore and Doreen Foster for providing this space, and for the South Shore Arts Council in promoting it and sponsoring it. And it's been wonderful for our family to have this focus.